I just want to see. Listen, I just want to see this Bears team healthy get into the season, but I also want them to be ready because we both talked about, right? Like this first game versus the Packers is important. You can't come out and lose this first game versus the Packers, the first game they don't have Aaron Rodgers, and they trying to figure out what the heck's going on with Jordan Love. And Jordan Love ain't looked good.
I don't think it's as impactful, dog. I just don't. I don't think the Packers. I get it. I understand historical context. I understand it's our rivals. I get all of that. But whether we win or lose that game, we know it ain't gonna be because of Jordan Love. Like we know Jordan, like we know what it is. Like ultimately, I'm just not concerned about the Packers. What should I be? Let's save that for the second matchup. I think the second game we play them is way more impactful than the first one. Way more. For me, that's just personal. I think that's how we should look at it. When you look at who we play afterwards, we play the Bucks, and then we play not the Bills, but the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Those two games are way more important than playing the Packers. Now I get it. The division, you want to make sure all of that. But
well, and that's the problem. It's basically a double loss, right? When you lose to the Packers, you don't just lose to the Packers win. Now they start off ahead of you in the division. You don't want to put yourself in that position. I think it's not only important from that standpoint, but also from a momentum standpoint. Guess what? If it's one-on-one, or if you go into that Chiefs game 1-1 because we beat the Bucks and we lose to the Packers, you're heading towards 1-2. I don't feel great about being able to go in there and dominate the Chiefs, even with Yannick Ngakoue on that defensive line creating pressure, because I've seen pressure be created by a lot of teams versus Pat Mahomes, and he still kills them. I think that it's a tone-setting game. You go out there versus this Packers team, and that's a game where you're setting the tone and you're setting the theme of your season. And go back to that 2005, 2006 season, or I'm sorry, 2006, 2007 season where the Bears go to the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying we're going to the Super Bowl, but it's a game for me where you get an opportunity to, okay, we win this. We're going in against a terrible Bucks team. We could be 2-1 going up against the coming out of that Kansas City game, or you win those two and somehow you find a way to beat Kansas City. Now you're sitting 3-0 and you just beat one of the best teams in football. I think that's how you start your season off with your right foot forward. You got to beat that Packers.
I like Matt's comment just because I can tell he's new to the show. But he's right. You know, maybe a true diehard football fan has been watching since the 80s would absolutely agree with that. And it's cool. Those same football fans would also sit there and admit that they were 22-5 against one particular guy. Oh, well, what's Brett Favre's record against us?
It's pretty much on par with Aaron Rodgers.
On par with everything else, right? So realistically, the allure and what we're aiming for, if your biggest thing right now rolling into the season is no matter what, let's just beat the Packers, you aren't a true fan.
No, I think
our goals and aims should be bigger than beating the freaking Packers, who don't even know what the heck is going on. They don't know what's going on there. If your only goal is, hey, we need to beat the Packers, move on. It's bigger fish to fry in the freaking division. Hey, beat Detroit. How about that? Let's beat Detroit. Let's beat.
Well, here's the thing, though. You can't put yourself behind the 8 ball by losing to the Packers, right? Like that's the thing. You've got two teams in your division that probably are going to be a lot more competitive. The Packers are and the Bears right now are probably bringing up the rear. If you want to put yourself in a good position, losing to the Packers ain't the way to do it. You got to start, no matter who it is, starting your season off 1-0 is important, but starting your season off 1-0 versus a division opponent that puts them at the bottom of the division is way more important than any. Like if you lose to the Bucks, you lose to the Bucks. It is what it is. But if you lose to the Packers and they're 1-0 ahead of you, now you already putting yourself behind the 8 ball in your division. Now you got to fight your way back.
I get it. Totally get it. Totally get the logic behind it. But there's a chance you lose that game. There's a chance you lose any of these particular games.
There's a chance you lose every game.
There's a chance you lose every game. It just doesn't carry as much weight to me for that particular game. Half the people who watch football, they don't even care the fact that they are divisional rivals. They just say it's just the Packers. They just want to beat the Packers. That's it. They don't care about what it means in the standings and anything like that. Half the people you talk to, especially from bar to bar in Chicago, don't even think that way. They don't.
Yeah, I mean, you still want to be able to beat your rivals. Like, I mean,
I get you.
What's wrong with that?
We're splitting hairs on that part. The thing is, we looked at our schedule and we saw a bunch of teams, and we were like, we got a real chance to beat them. And if we can beat those teams, now we're having a totally different conversation. If we lose to KC, now everyone's gonna say, "Oh, you lost to KC." But if you lose to KC and it's by a field goal last second, you're like, okay, wait, we almost beat KC. That's a different thing.
But that doesn't mean anything.
You lose to the
that doesn't mean anything though. If you lose to KC, and it means something if you lost to the Packers. Like, that's what I'm saying. Losing to KC, you lost the game. It's one on the loss, Chicago. It doesn't help anybody ahead of you though.
Do you think that the Packers are going to be in any situation to lead this division?
I think that the Packers are in a better situation than people think that they're in, because they, outside of having Aaron Rodgers, who is a big part of what they did, they still have a really good run game. They still have
a good run game.
In theory, what should be a good defense. We'll see if it actually gets, utilized the right way. But they got a lot of first-round picks on that defense that, if they start to pan out right, the Packers have become the conversation we've had about the Bears our entire lives. That's literally what happened in Green Bay. Like, literally, it's like, if the quarterback doesn't screw things up, they've got a run game and a defense that can absolutely help them win games.
Well, Pat, I'm glad you said our entire lives, because our entire lives, they've had two guys, and those two guys are amongst the best of the best in NFL history. It's like in our time, like our lives, particularly me and you, there's been two guys.
No, I
neither one of those guys are walking through that door. I get it. I understand.
But that doesn't mean that they
team and that organization right now is a shell of themselves, and they're just people are holding that game. People are holding that game specifically against the Packers, both games, not just that first one, in higher regard than the Detroit Lions and Vikings. And I'm like, that's stupid.
Well,
that's stupid right now.
Here's the thing.
That doesn't make sense.
But here's the thing.
It's not keeping up with the current state of football.
Of the three teams, which one's winnable? Which one can you guarantee is a winnable game? If you can guarantee that the Packers is a winnable game, that means that you should win that game. Like, that's my thing, right? Like, the Vikings, to me, I think the Vikings is very winnable, because I think the Vikings are absolutely going to fall off a cliff. Muzz is sitting here, still got the Vikings second in the division. I'm like, I think you're going to be sitting here talking about a 7 to 8 win Vikings team at best.
With the new pickup with Yannick, I have us second,
which is fine, right? I can see the Bears being second, but I just think with all of the stats that go into last season with Yannick, or with how many games they won by one score, 12-1, and what we ended up seeing by the end of the season, how they end up getting beat by the Giants, right? It literally told us, oh, these guys actually did suck. Because that Giants team isn't that good. They're better than most, but they're not that good. Saquon Barkley's really good, but he didn't even destroy them. Y'all really got beat by Daniel Jones on an end around. Like, it's like the Vikings, to me, I think they're going to fall off of a cliff. I do think the Lions are still going to, like, in my mind, the Lions are still your class of the division, but, like, are they? I've watched a lot of Lions teams that I'm like, yeah, that Lions team should be good next year, and they wasn't. And Muzz can be like, history doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, say what you want to say, but listen, I get it, and this is going to be one of those things where, like I told you, ultimately, I have two games that mean the most to me watching this particular team, because I don't think we're going to be a Super Bowl team this season. I don't think I know it can happen quickly, but I don't think we're going to be a Super Bowl team. I think we're like 1 or 2 seasons. We're 2 seasons away from that being a real conversation. So to me, it's like, hey, I just want to see the best out of Justin, because that's ultimately what's missing. So to me, how he looks against his contemporaries matters. Him being good against Stroud matters. Him being good against any other rookie, to me, those are the games that are more impactful, because I'm looking at this as a real development year for Fields. I'm not looking at this as, oh, we have to make the playoffs, stuff like that. No, I've never stood here and say, hey, we need to make the playoffs. I said we need to develop our talent, and development doesn't always mean win.
And if you watch,
but if you have good games and we are progressing right, we're all going in the right way, we will feel good. Justin goes 8-9, or 8-8. because we got to buy 8, whatever it is. We feel good about it. If those games were close and he looks totally different than he did last season, we feel good about it. The city feels good about it. If we go 12-4, but he looks worse than Mitchell Trubisky, we're like, yeah, we're 12-4.
Yeah.
We don't have a QB.
Yeah. No, I get you. But here's my thing with it, right? And I think that this is, if you watch 1920 Drive today, this is the one thing that the number one nugget I took away from it. The Bears' goal this season is to win the division. And it's not just like the cliche, we're gonna go out there and try and make this and do this and try and get it. No, the Bears' goal this season is to be division champs. So they're talking about going out there and trying to have a 10-11 win season. They realize that the division is up for grabs. They realize that week 1 versus Green Bay is the most important thing that you have to start off your season with, because that puts you a step in the right direction. You also have, and here's the main thing about it, right? It puts you a step in a direction in a week where I believe Minnesota plays. I don't remember who Minnesota plays off the top of my head. Let me look that up. But Detroit plays Kansas City. So you might be in a situation where Detroit, you might be in a situation where Detroit's already starting off the season 0-1.
Vikings play the Bucks game week 1. They play Eagles week 2. Chargers week 3.
Vikings should beat the Bucks.
The Vikings should beat the Bucks, but the Eagles is going to be a good game. They have a much tougher schedule than we do. Much tougher schedule.
No, well, they should. They were above us. But it's one of those things where you're in a position now where we can't say that Kirk Cousins can't choke a game versus Baker Mayfield. Baker with Mayfield week 1 is probably going to be a dog. We know Baker will give you that game, man. Baker's going to give you a game where you just like, oh, snap, this is it. Then he falls off a cliff. That's fully what I expect to happen here in Tampa Bay. But what I'm looking at is, okay, week 1, Detroit's going up against Kansas City. That puts them behind the 8 ball. Week 1, we play Green Bay. If we can come away with a win versus Green Bay, that puts us possibly alone at the top, maybe tied with the Vikings at the top. Like, you just don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're already looking up going, man, all right, we got to climb out of this hole now. Now we got to win next week versus the Buccaneers because we got Kansas City the week after that. And that's the game where you like, it might be crazy. We'll see. And again, football's a weird sport, right? Like, we could sit here and be concerned and losing our minds on this, and Travis Kelce could twist an ankle and not play versus us, right? Like, there's a million things that can happen where seasons can change in an instant in the NFL. But for me, I just think that, right, like, I think even this move that we're talking about, Justin Fields not playing in Saturday's game versus the Colts, you're preparing for Green Bay. You're making sure you've got your quarterback for Green Bay. You're making sure that you've got your offensive line hopefully as intact as it can be for Green Bay. You're making sure that, right, like all the concerns about continuity and all that stuff that we've seen, clearly Matt Eberflus is seeing enough from his first team offense, because you're not putting DJ Moore out there with PJ Walker. I'm not putting
I mean, you could. They played together.
PJ Walker.
You could,
but like, what sense does it make, right? At that point, you're just going, like, we just want somebody out there to run some routes and maybe see something different. I'm not throwing that guy out there. If I'm not risking Justin Fields, I'm not risking the number one weapon that I brought in to pair with Justin Fields.
Yeah. I listen, we got the talent. I know we cold. I know this is probably the best offensive talent we've had in a long time. I'm on the fence on who should be playing what. I've made my stance very, very clear as to who should be playing and who shouldn't. Protecting Justin because you think something iffy gonna happen in a preseason game, I get. Against this particular unit, like that energy coming into another game. So you're trying to take my QB out early, huh? I got you. Yeah. So we ain't gonna run that. Like, that's gonna be something where somebody gets fined because now we fighting on the field and stuff like that. I can see you trying to avoid a situation like that. And that's all I looked at. As soon as I saw that play and we got on a restream, I was like, that's probably why he ain't playing, because that's the only reason I wouldn't play him. And I think as a competitor, it's probably the only reason Justin would even like be okay with that, like as if he ultimately had a choice. But like,
and that's the thing, like, he doesn't have a choice or a say in the matter.
He don't. Like, he got to play. But like, that's the only thing. It's like, hey, listen, we can't risk that, and we got to make the investment. I get it. But everything else in regards to that, I'm just like really keen on, like, if we are going to win the division, we have to win the games that don't. We have to still win the games, not just against our division rivals and stuff like that, but the other games that matter the most is because realistically, Green Bay has the easiest schedule.
Yeah.
Green Bay has the
schedule is actually pretty easy too. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Ours is not that bad. Detroit's is.
It's like it's hard, but it get hard in moments. But for the most part, you can see them winning. Like Detroit has what I like to call they have their sections of the season where it says that's going to be the real test. That's going to tell us what we need to think about Detroit, because how you go in this stretch of games is going to be that. But Detroit's schedule ain't that tough either.
Looking at the Packers, the hardest games they got probably against us. Well, Chargers.
Yeah, they
probably against us. Like probably against us. Like it is what it is, you know. Like, but that's also the expectation for that team. Like let's be clear, the Packers make the playoffs, something miraculous happened, and that's okay.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Like people have the Packers at the bottom, and I can see the Packers if Jordan Love is god off when he's just throwing picks left and right, being at the bottom. I can see them being one of.
Did you see the practice?
100%. But here's the thing.
He looked bad on tape.
Outside of Jordan.
How bad you think he looked in person? He looked bad. He looked bad when I could doctor it.
How'd you look in person? Here's my thing though. I can
look real
just like Kirk Cousins, right? I can, if I don't believe in you, I can remove you from the offense without removing you from the offense. Or just like Jimmy Garoppolo at times in San Francisco, or just whoever it is, right? Like I can sit here and say, you getting 15 passes in this game because you're not going to screw this up for us. We're going to find a way to win without you, but you need to be able to throw this deep ball when we ask you to do it because this play is going to be so wide open. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that. And outside of that, everything else is the same. Like everything else on the Packers team outside of that is the same. And there was times even last season where Aaron Rodgers just wasn't clicking with Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. And so he was like, we're not going to throw the football as much. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think it's highly unlikely that if they try and sit there and have Jordan Love drop back and throw the football 25 times a game, that you're going to win a ton of games. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers found a way to engage that running game and make that the focal point of their offense. But if you do that, right, just like with the Bears over all these years, you have to have an elite defense. And the one thing that we ain't seen is the Packers with an elite defense yet.
And that's the one thing I want people to understand. Do I want? I'm not, because people gonna take this and run with it like I do with a lot of stuff on the stupid show, right? I gotta clarify some stuff. I want us to beat the Packers. However, the real test and real purpose of this season, if we know that the chances of us winning the Super Bowl ain't all that great, is development. What does that look like? Hey, some fluky stuff can happen and Green Bay could win. Like, so I'm not so much tied to that win-loss column as I am to the development of my players. And when you have that mindset, and I know it's different and people don't want to hear it. Oh, well, so what? This is kind of what they think of on a higher level, which is why you have GMs that'll be there with like horrible seasons. And all of a sudden they really, you're looking at what pieces do I have? How are they developing? And all right, now what's missing to get to the next level? Yep. We're trying to evaluate 3 key pieces here. One, believe it or not, you're evaluating your coach because we ain't had a good one. Matt Nagy was like lightning in a bottle. And then once he got figured out, that was it. We're still evaluating Eberflus. Like we really are.
Yeah.
You're evaluating Justin Fields. You really are. Newsflash. Don't work out. You think he's still going to be here or still going to get the same? No, they're not. That's not how this new NFL works. You're evaluating those, and now you're really evaluating some of the money you've invested on your defense. We got a lot of 1-year deals that makes us feel really confident. You're evaluating that too. Like, is it worth bringing back? Like, so you're evaluating a whole lot, and you're taking calculated risk from Ryan Poe's perspective, and you have to look at it from there. If we don't, do well record-wise, but we play really competitive football and stuff like that, and Justin looks better and stuff like that, we have all the pieces to run it back. Now it's about, all right, let me re-sign these guys to run it back. It's truly evaluating from that aspect.
Right.
That's not a fan favorite, but that's literally what Ryan Post has to do. He has to evaluate it from that standpoint because anything can happen on that field. But do I have the talent in there to get me to where I want to go? Are we trending in the right direction? If that answer is yes, you're going to see a lot of these people get re-up, stuff like that. And we're going to be a force to be reckoned with for years to come. If it's not, I'm in the right moment to blow it up because I got enough draft capital. I could do this, I could do that, and I have the cash. Cool. Let's just run it back, fire quick, and just retool it. That's where we are. We're not in anything solidified because you ain't seen it. Any person in this chat that say, "Oh no, but we're here," shut up. You're lying. You ain't seen it. You ain't seen nothing to hold your hat on yet. It's a true development year.
I think it's a development year from the sense of Justin Fields, right? But it's not a development year for the sense of what the Chicago Bears are trying to do. That's why you go get Yannick Ngakoue. Bears are trying to win. They said as much in 1920. Like they're trying to win the division. This is not, we're trying to take this slow. We want to see what Justin Fields becomes. Of course, you want Justin Fields to develop while you're winning, but the Bears are not sitting here. You're not going to see the game called like we saw it called last season.
Bet not.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to see the game called in the second half of games like it was called last season. And so for me, yes, this is a development year, but this is not a year of, okay, if Justin Fields wins 7 games, but he's a 4,000-yard passer and he gives you another 500 years, right? Like the team feels good about it. The team is telling you right now, I'm not worried about development. I'm worried about winning games. Justin Fields developing at that same time. That's great to see. And I'm glad. And it sounds like Matt Eberflus says that he's seen enough good things from him to not play him. But this team is worried about trying to put the team in a position to keep winning. Because at the end of the day, guess what? Like you said with Flus is in a evaluation period right now.
Facts. But let me ask you something, because you said something key real quick. So if Justin Fields doubles his passing yard total, he doubles his production, and he wins 4 more games in that process, that's not a good season?
No, you won 7 games, but it's a good season for Justin Fields. You feel better about your quarterback, but you won 7 games. Now, granted, I think that's their floor.
Considering that we won 3 last time, I think that's, mind you,
but
improvement. Improvement. I'm talking about my QB finally looks like a QB I can trust.
But the thing is, right? Why did you
winning situations? And again, we have. I mean, listen, if we lose against the Vikings, depending on how you lose, you'd be like, all right, so we lost against the Vikings. Like the Vikings who went 13 and whatever they went.
The Vikings aren't good. I keep telling us this. The Vikings aren't a good football team. The Vikings have an aging defense. They have a quarterback that has one option realistically that he trusts going to. And literally most of the time when he going to that option, it's just like, he down there somewhere. Like the Vikings are not going to be good this year. Their offensive line has question marks on it.
Hey, Pat, I'm sorry. You sound like Charles Barkley. What? Hey, you know what? No, we actually tried this last season. Every time you said somebody wasn't going to be good, they end up showing out. Shut up.
Nah.
You did that. That was you. That's a Pat designer thing. I'm gonna go back and find. I'm not gonna do that work.
Nah, but it was just Kyle Lowry. That was the only one that ever bit me in the butt. Kyle Lowry always cooked when
this man said Kyle Lowry was trash. Next game, 30.
Hey, what? Kyle Lowry definitely put up like 35, 40 points on us. Hey, but that ain't my fault. Listen, I have the sumo. You can't guard Kyle Lowry, dog. Come on.
Hey, fam, listen. All I'm saying is there's evidence that the moment you say somebody's trash, they have the best game of their life. And you've said it multiple times. It's only 16, 17 games. I need you to shut up.
Like, it's a long play game, right? I said the Vikings was trash the entire time they was winning 13 games. I said it was trash the whole season. And then by the end of the season, Muzz was like, hey, they're kind of trash. They just keep winning. Hey. All of a sudden, everybody was on my side. It was just, hey, they
you can't be kind of trash and win 13 games, my G.
No, you can though. You can though.
Hey, listen, I get what you try to say.
No, they was trash.
I get what you're saying, bro. But if I'm down at half, but I keep finding a way to win, I'm not trash. I'm good. You want to know who also was down most of the important games and they still found a way to win? The Chiefs.
It don't matter.
Chiefs was down like every playoff, like all playoff games. They was down at half, looking like trash. No, dog. They found a way to win. They got it done.
Every single statistical category from last season outside of that win-loss column says, I don't know how y'all pulled this off. Because y'all should not be this good.
And if I'm Kirk Cousins, because we got listen, that's what I'm gonna say.
They won a game. They won a game off of what was it? A 65-yard field goal, bro. Like nah, bro.
Come on, baby. That means I got one of the best kickers in the game. 65 yards. Heck, what you talking about?
Stop playing with me. Cheeks, bro. They just found a way to win at the end of the day. I don't know how. Listen, and how they did it too. Like the record in one score, it'll never happen again. So now it's like you saying at best, right? At best, you're flipping half of those one-score games into losses. So you flipping half of 13 games into losses.
All I'm saying is this. This is a very, very unique comment because it's kind of like it's kind of facts. I ain't gonna lie to you.
The Vikings are James Harden.
They are James Harden.
Shout out to Steve-O.
Hey, hold on. Shout out to Steve-O. And y'all know I'm not a James Harden fan. But I have actually said on tape multiple times, James Harden is going to go down as a top shooting guard of all time. And I hate it.
He's going to go
down. You can call it trash. You can say whatever you want to.
He's going to go down as the what?
He's going to go down as a top shooting guard of all time. He's going to be like top. He's going to be fringe.
He's going to go down as the